Hello guys, Oroth here and a warm welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you a very strong dummy build, which is the strongest I've ever played for Monk and one of the strongest I've ever played in the game. And before showcasing this video I have to say that this build is really only performing this well at the training dummy, because it will not work on any type of boss target. And I know that some people, they don't care about dummy damage, but for me, I think that dealing a lot of damage to the training dummy is one of the most fun thing to experiment with, something that I can measure, and also we can learn a lot from it. If we find something that is very strong at the training dummy, we can use some of those concepts and implement them into other builds. So yeah, you have to take it for what it is. And I know that maybe this is not the best build for raids, since some of the effects here can't trigger on the boss, so I'm aware of that. But yeah, as I said, I still think it's fun. And I also have to mention before diving into this topic that I've also prepared the second part of my Legendary Gem series, where I will talk about every 2-star in the game. I just have to edit the video, so it will be out very soon, so please stay tuned for that. And on top of that, I will also post a link to my Discord server in the description of this video, because on my Discord server I often release a lot of builds before I make a video here on my channel, and sometimes I even release builds that don't end up in a video. And on top of that, there's a lot of other very friendly people there with a lot of knowledge, so please become a part of that tribe, I would really appreciate it. But anyways, let us move on now and take a look at this build, and let's start by looking at the skills I'm using. In the primary slot I use Deadly Reach. I use in the first skill slot Breath of Heaven, in the second skill slot Exploding Palm, in the third skill slot Flying Dragon, and in the fourth and final skill slot I use Imprisoned Fist. If we move on, we can take a look at the set combination here. And then we can see that I use 2 pieces of Vitus Urge, and I do only 2 pieces because I have stacked the Breath of Heaven Terror effects, and that also gives attack speed. It doesn't stack with the V2 attack speed effect, so therefore I only use 2 pieces, and that allows me to switch in also 2 pieces of the Endwinter set, because I will have 100% uptime on a chill effect. Instead of this set you could also use the Banquet of Ice set, because that would also increase your damage by 15%, so here you can experiment freely a little bit. And on top of that I also use 4 pieces of Baron, because I want to prolong my harmful effects, and on top of that it will also add a 20% debuff to the target, so it takes more damage, and this stacks with armor breaks, so it's super good, and I will have 100% uptime on the 4-piece effect here as well. If we move on here and take a look at the SSS, in the helmet slot I use Blind Focus, and this allows me to gain extra damage whenever I use Exploding Palm, and this buff will have 100% uptime. I did use the Shield of Zen buff that gives increased skill damage in the beginning, but then I realized that even though that buff is a little bit stronger, a lot of my damage actually comes from the primary attack and from other sources that are not skill damage, so therefore this helmet will work better. In the shoulder slot I use Rip Current Shells, and what it does is that Imprisoned Fist now grants me Waning Flare, which makes my primary attack also deal extra damage from Imprisoned Fist. So very good with this build. In the chest slot I use Nest of Vipers, and it's similar to the shoulders, but instead it's the Flying Dragon that will be linked with my primary attack, and this is also a huge source of damage increase. In the first mainland slot I use Persistent Courage, and what it says is that Deadly Reach will increase my primary attack speed by 15.2% for 1 second, and it will stack up to a maximum of 45.6%. And this will be at the max value all the time when we attack the dummy, so super strong for this setup. In the first offense slot I use Vedenin's Sting, and what it says is that Flying Dragon now also shatters enemy armor, increasing the damage they take by 11.4% for 3 seconds, and this can stack up to 3 times, so I will get 34.2% armor break all the time on the dummy. Super strong, very good for this setup. In the pants slot I use Reverse Transgression, and this essence is super interesting, because this means that Breath of Heaven will now deal AoE damage, and any target that's hit, except if it's a boss, will be stunned. And when the stun duration ends, the target will take 40% of all the damage I managed to deal to it during the stun duration. And that's really the star of this build, because I can actually get 100% uptime on the stun thanks to the Baron set. So it will be on for the whole duration of 1 minute, and then I just time it so that it wears off at the exact 1 minute mark, and I will deal a huge burst of damage at once, and that will make the damage of this build explode at the dummy. And as I said, it doesn't work on bosses, so that's why this is a dummy build, but maybe we can use this concept somewhere else and it will be very useful. It's quite similar to the Tempest helmet Look Leeward, where Squall puts a debuff on the target, and then the target will take 30% of the damage that it took during the duration of the Squall. So yeah, it's very interesting. And there's also a new Tempest offhand that has a similar effect that also gives 40% of the damage. So very cool pants here for sure, and you will see it in action soon when we do a dummy run. In the second mainland slot I use Peerless Conductor, and what it says is that the third strike of Deadly Reach now knocks enemies airborne. And of course we can't knock the dummy up, but we will get this extra damage every third hit, and this is the best in this slot that we can put in. I've been trying out different essences as well, but this performs best by a margin, so also good for this setup. And finally, in the second offhand slot I use Up and Over, and this is also a new essence. It doesn't deal a lot of extra damage. I've been trying out different versions. For example, there's a Flying Dragon version that gives us increased damage as well, but it does not stack with the helmet, so therefore I have to use Up and Over. What it says is that when Flying Dragon deals damage 3 times, you will also deal some extra damage to the enemy. So this is quite weak, this essence, but I've tried the different versions out and this is the one that works best. I've also experimented with other types of exploding palm essences here, but they don't increase the damage. So yeah, that's why I use this one. So now we have taken a look at all of the essences. Let us also take a look at the legendary gems here. And now you can see that I'm using Ship of Stone Flesh, I use Blood-Soaked Jade, I use Bottled Hope, I use Rolling Consequence, Colossus Engine, Blood Flow, Gloom Cask, and I also use Spectre Gloss. I tried to use the Wolf Fort instead of the Spectre Gloss at first, because in the first version of this build I didn't use Baron set. I used 4 pieces of Grace and 4 pieces of V2, and in that case the Wolf Fort performed better for me at rank 6. But now, since I used the Baron, the Spectre Class surpassed the Wolf Fort, and yeah, because the harmful effect, the damage increase will be up longer each time it triggers on the boss. So yes, very powerful indeed. And of course you can try out a lot of different legendary gems. You will probably not deal as much damage as me, of course, because I'm almost min-max for PvE, but as long as you use damage modifiers it will be great. What can be interesting to mention here is that Ship of Stone Flesh also has 100% uptime here thanks to the pants, so I will have this damage increase buff that the Ship of Stone Flesh gives all the time, so very powerful. We can also take a quick look here at my Reforges. This is the standard setup that I use for most of my PvE builds. It's damage done to enemies suffering loss of control, damage to demons, and of course damage to demons will not trigger on the dummy, but it's great in gauntlets, for example. And as I said, this build is not for gauntlet, but this is my PvE setup. I have attack speed, I have duration of beneficial effects, and also I have critical hit damage. And remember now that critical hit damage has a cap of 120%. So what you have to do is that you have to go here to your page and see that currently I have 48% increased critical hit damage from the attributes, etc, etc. And on top of that I will also gain a lot of critical hit damage from my armor penetration, and I have to add these together. So in reality I would actually deal more damage if I switch out some of my critical hit damage fixes for something else, like skill damage, for example, or maybe primary attack damage. I would prefer skill damage though, and the reason for that is because I also have this blood flow, so whenever the blood flow is active I actually go quite a bit over the cap, but I have not optimized my setup yet to account for this. So just keep that in mind. So there are room for improvement here. We of course also have to take a look at the Paragon settings here. I'm using the Slinger, and here we can see I use Unseen Dynamism, I use Gifted, I use Bloodthirst, I use Fury, and I also use Superiority. And as the legendary skill here, I use Death's Release. And I could also use Overloaded, it has similar results. Let's look at the dummy run now. The build has some parts of it that are similar to the older versions, but the new things here that we're implementing is especially the Breath of Heaven, and you will see how powerful it is when we take a look at the dummy run. So let's go. And here I'm floating in the air like a phoenix of death, getting ready to start, and here we go. And what you will see is that I use all of my skills immediately, and then I start to primary attack the enemy. And I also want to use 2 exploding palms immediately in quick succession, because then I power up my Paragon as fast as possible. And it's very simple to try it out. I just use the skills whenever the cooldown is ready. And what's important to mention here is that I have high cooldown reduction in my setup, so this allows me to use the yellow rune in both my helmet and my shoulder that prolongs my beneficial effect duration. This will increase my damage a lot because it will prolong the gem effects. But anyways, we are approaching the 1 minute mark soon, and what we will see is that I am actually gonna not use the Breath of Heaven the last time around. The perfect timing to use it is around the 53-second mark for me, because that allows the stun to wear off at the exact 1 minute mark. So you will see now that I used the last Breath of Heaven at exactly 53 seconds, and now we are, boom, exploding up to 2 billion damage in 1 minute. And I have to say that this is really strong and powerful. I've only been able to achieve this with Crusader before. I can say that I would probably be able to do it with Wizard as well if I played on a PC, because the way the skills trigger is a little bit different on PC compared to mobile devices. But yeah, this is very fun that we can deal this much damage with the monk. And please let me know in the comments if you try this out, if you manage to increase your damage as well. And I hope that you also enjoy dummy content. I know that some people don't care. As I said in the beginning, you will be upset that I'm not showing you a dungeon build or something else that can be useful in other types of content. And sure, I try to do that as well, but for science purposes, I think that making runs here at the dummy is the most fun. And as I said in the beginning, it's a little bit like drag racing. You wouldn't take a drag race car out to drive on the streets, it would not work there. And some people will say, why would you construct a drag racing car if you can't drive with it on a racetrack, for example? But yeah, I think it's fun to see how fast we can go, how fast can we accelerate, how much damage can we deal to this poor dummy. And he hates me by now, you know that since before, but yeah, super fun, I think so at least. And I also hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And until next time, I want to wish you a very nice day or a very nice evening wherever you are. And to all of my clan members in Nyx, I would of course also like to say Voruk Nyx Sholak Sol. So bye bye.
Guess who's back with some brand new content? Hit the bell button, maybe leave a comment. Oroth with the swagger, wanna see his game. Teach you all the secrets, it will be insane. Guess who's back with a brand new lesson? He will have the answer if you have a question. Oroth invites you to his awesome tribe. No more time to waste, it's time to hit subscribe. 1, 2, 3 is the man of our affection. 4, 5, 6 only aiming for perfection. 7, 8, 9 he is 10 out of 10. Subscribe and you will never miss a video again.